Ridgefield is an idyllic small Connecticut town with a revolutionary legacy of traditional values of faith, family, and compassion that welcomes many faiths, lifestyles, and identities. So, it was accepting when a mother decided to indulge her son's gender dysphoria. But that indulgence morphed into a cause she dubbed Ridgefield Pride that fueled a social contagion. That possessed patronizing politicians who this small but aggressive and vocal movement captivated. Ridgefield had flown various flags in front of its town hall, including the Ukrainian and rainbow flags. But in 2022, the United States Supreme Court found against Boston for selectively refusing to fly a Christian flag. And a year later, after a local attorney demanded the Palestinian flag be flown an equal number of days as the Israeli flag, the Ridgefield Board of Selectpersons adopted a flag policy limiting flags to just government-sponsored flags, resulting in the removal of the Israeli flag, which had flown in front of Town Hall for 2 months, and prohibiting all other private interest flags, including the rainbow flag, which it previously flew in June each year. So, Ridgefield Pride collected over 400 signatures on a petition permitting the town to fly the rainbow flag at the exclusion of all others. The problem with this approach is that it denies everyone else the freedom of speech the First Amendment guarantees everyone, including Ridgefield Pride, resulting in pushback. Should this proposed ordinance be approved at town meeting, it invites very expensive litigation in which the town is likely to be trounced. Here is the Ridgefield Board of Selectpersons at their meeting of November 6, 2024, dealing with this very challenging quandary, charter requirements, and the U.S. Constitution.
So we'll call to order our Board of Selectpersons meeting for today, Wednesday, November 6th at 7:30. I don't know if there's anything that the board wishes to add to the agenda tonight. If not, we'll move right into public comment. And if there's anyone that would like to make a comment or ask a question tonight, now's your time to do so. Mr. Tartaglia, name and address for the record, please.
John Tartaglia, 638 Danbury Road on the number 6 item.
Okay.
Number 6. I submitted objections, 2 sets of them. And the first, because I think it's going to become a major thing if it gets passed, there were some issues raised, not about ethics, but about lack of, or possible lack of objectivity. I'd appreciate it if the Board of Selectmen would respond procedurally to that before they accept the petition. You may either consider it or not as you wish, but I think there's some issues there. The other thing
Can I just start?
Yes.
What you're questioning is the...
That's the bias, that's on the issue
Proper
of Sean
form
having
of-
possibly signed the petition in question.
I did sign the petition, yeah.
All right, so there's a question.
But, I mean, it's public information, anybody can look and see
No,
that.
no,
But yeah,
I
that's,
respect that, Sean. I don't really want to get into one thing, let's just speak about the issues. I submitted objections, and I asked at least that the board make a decision on them, because those are preliminary matters.
Thank you.
And on the charter, the question of whether you should accept a petition or put it on, and please, you know, these public meetings, the pointless public meetings that we just went through, you know, I mean, I'm sure there's some answer to it all, but please don't, this whole, without going to the town meeting, the annual town meeting, bringing everybody around in the middle of the night, you know, big public meeting, special meeting for a special issue, I'd like to offer you the thought that maybe these things could be put over to the town meeting as opposed to conducting, it would seem to be now, multiple special town meetings that are on, you know, subjects that are, you know, there's a lot of different points of view. And lastly, I think the charter permits you, and I honestly, I feel Sean shouldn't be here, Barbara isn't here, but I think the charter permits you as statesmen to reject the petition as it's presented on constitutional grounds, because it's asking you to get into an area where you definitely, if you pass it, it's definitely going to be litigation. Whereas if you deny it, it's very unlikely that there'll be litigation on it, which means the easier course is to deny it in its form. Because the form, I think, is offensive to the First Amendment as it's presented. I'm very surprised that the Board of Selectmen people who signed that petition didn't read that language before. And I'd like to remind all of you that your primary duty, as I know you know, is still to the United States and the state of Connecticut's Constitution. And preliminarily, that gives you an important statesmanlike power of prudence and restraint to avoid matters that might be of litigation, avoid matters that are going to be endlessly emotional and off-point, and try and focus the town on what is necessary and appropriate at a town level without getting interfered with or pulled towards different issues that may be, I think, essentially have to do with interest groups. And that's the boundary between public forum, free speech, or government-controlled speech, as Sean's proposed and now in existence policy presently exists. You're trying to violate your own neutrality that you declared. And I do remember that Sean was the person that had proposed that policy. So please consider that, because it is going to go down a bad avenue. Please don't let it go down that bad avenue. Please, on the special meetings at 8 o'clock at night in the dark, it's hard to get into there, and it's not well lit. Please don't do that. It's very difficult. And it's not, it isn't good for all of us, I think.
Thank you for your comments, appreciate it. Yes.
Hi, Andrea
Mrs.
Beebe,
Beebe.
378 Main Street. Didn't last fall, we have a discussion about this and come up with the town policy about what flag would fly out in front of town hall? Why are we revisiting this?
The petition was received for a special town meeting.
So even though we set a flag policy.
We can't stop a petition.
So this could be an ongoing petition. If we turn it down, they could come back with another petition, and this could just keep going and going.
Anyone can bring a petition to the selectmen.
There is a
And
threshold.
the charter guides us. Go ahead.
There's a threshold. They have to have over
Well, I
500
understand- I
signatures, so it's not an
understand that.
easy benchmark.
I just know what we went through last fall with all the talk around the flags and what kind of flags could then be put out there and who could come, and we couldn't say no to them, and so we came up with a policy, and it just seems like a lot of energy was expended to now have to revisit. So I'm just, those are my two questions.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Anyone else have any questions, comments? Name and address for the record, Sean?
Sean Archambault, Ramapur Road, Ridgefield. Aside from what I've seen on the legal aspects here, which I think are pretty convincing, that the town should not fly any other flag other than the state flag and the MIA flag, I think there's a larger issue here. The Pride group says that they just want to be accepted. I don't really believe that. I think they want more. They want to be special. They want to be celebrated. No other civic service group does this. You got the Rotary, the Lions Club, the Knights of Columbus, the Eagle Scouts. None of these groups demand that they have their own crosswalk. None of these groups demand that their flag is flown on public property. None of them demand that they have a whole month dedicated to their cause. They just go quietly about serving the whole community. It appears to me that the Pride group is really intent on serving a very small community only. They say that they're inclusive, but by putting a petition to only fly their flag, instead of having a petition to say, listen, we want anybody's flag to be flown, they're basically excluding every other group. So I think they're very exclusionary, not inclusion. And we have anti-discrimination laws on the books. If some LGBTQ person finds it discriminated against job-wise or whatever, go to court, like every other group has to. The Catholics have to, the Irish have, everybody has. If you're discriminated against, you use the laws, you go to court. You can't demand that people like and support you. That has to be earned. And I'm personally a little tired of this constant pride stuff in our face all the time, all summer long. My wife says, the pride things start going up. It's a month in the park, but a month before and at least a month after, you've got them all over town and everything. I hope that the town refuses the petition and just, be done with this.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment? Mr. Carr?
Kirk Carr, 62 Prospect Ridge. I've already sent you a memo, so I'm not going to go over all of that. But clearly, there is a short-lived, and what happened with Boston versus short-lived cost the town of Boston $2 million to litigate this flag issue. And you can make the same mistake that Boston did, but you don't have to. And I understand the feeling that the charter requires you to do this. If they get the signatures, and if the town council says this is proper. You've also gotten a note from Mr. Weeking, and I'll just let you. I think you've all got this, but
Right.
I think he can't be here this evening, so I'd like someone to perhaps read it into the record. But he's an attorney who is a member of the Supreme Court Bar. He's been litigating constitutional questions for 20 years. So he's somebody that you ought to listen to. You have your own general practitioner attorney who may not be as versed in this as Mr. Weeking is, and he clearly has standing since he brought the question of the Palestinian flag back in December of 2023. And you wisely, and I salute Mr. Conley and Mr. Murray for having motion seconded and that you voted unanimously on the current policy because you want to protect the town from the kind of litigation that Shurtleff could bring to you. So I believe that Mr. Weeking did reach out to Mr. Buxbaum. They never connected. I don't know whether Mr. Buxbaum was too busy running for office or what kept him, but you clearly have a legal opinion that's been shared with you, and I think you ought to consider it against what you've gotten from the town attorney. And I just passed that around. I hope someone will read it into the record.
We usually don't read things into the record. It isn't a public hearing.
Right.
Here we go. If you want to read it, I mean, it's rather lengthy, but you want me to read it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
The Ridgefield Board of Selectpersons, I write to you regarding impending setting of a date on a petition regarding the flagpole in front of Town Hall. I am an attorney who has spent his career litigating constitutional issues. As a member of the U.S. Supreme Court Bar, I ask that you please accept my free legal advice. Do not permit this petition to go to a vote. To allow this petition or any other petition on the flying of a certain flag or flags to go for a vote would be a violation of the First Amendment of the Constitution. The issue, which was corrected by the current policy on the flagpole, was that the town had created what is known as a public forum and then discriminated against which individuals were allowed to use that public forum based on viewpoint. The courts have long held that viewpoint discrimination by the government in a public forum is precisely the activity the First Amendment was enacted to prevent. The adoption of the current flag policy closed the public forum, thereby making it impossible for the town to engage in illegal discrimination after its enactment. If the board allows the vote to go forward, it will have created a new public forum. The facts in this instance make it clear that will be what has happened. A group that was previously allowed to use the town flagpole to express a political message again wants to use that flagpole to express a political message. Instead of going to the first select person, they would now be permitted to use the forum to express a political message via majority vote at a town meeting. The Supreme Court found issue with a similar setup in the case Board of Regents of the University of Wisconsin System versus Southworth. In Southworth, the Supreme Court held that it was okay for a state university to require students to pay a fee to support extracurricular speech that some students found objectionable if the program is run in a content-neutral fashion. The court took issue with part of the program that allowed a majority vote of students to fund or defund certain groups. The court said, quote, "To the extent the referendum substitutes majority determinations for viewpoint neutrality, it would undermine the constitutional protection the program requires. The whole theory of viewpoint neutrality is that minority views are treated with the same respect as are majority views. Access to a public forum, for instance, does not depend on majoritarian consent, end quote. In short, allowing a majority to say who can and cannot have access to a forum is unconstitutional. By permitting a vote on the petition, the town will be taking the action the Supreme Court explicitly prohibited in Southworth, by allowing political messages to be displayed in a public forum, but only from viewpoints shared by the majority. The charter specifically prohibits petitions from coming to a vote if the town attorney determines they are not proper subjects for action at a town meeting. I would be happy to discuss this matter further with the town attorney should he or she wish. Even if the town attorney permits this petition to go to a town vote, it is still the town that will have to answer for any unconstitutional action, just like the city of Boston did when it had to pay $2.1 million for its unconstitutional actions with its flagpole. As a resident, I believe it is the board's responsibility to protect the town from taking illegal and unconstitutional actions. It is on your shoulders not to permit the manipulation of the charter to enable the creation of a public forum that unconstitutionally excludes minority viewpoints. Sincerely, Daniel Weeke. Is that the correct pronunciation? Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? If not, we'll move on with our agenda. Thank you, everyone, for your questions and comments. Flag petition. So there's been a lot of discussion. We had a lot of public comment on this issue. And the question, and I spoke with Maureen during the week about this, did we get an opinion from town council relative to the constitutional law? And the answer is no. The question asked, was this a proper topic for a town meeting? And that answer is yes. And what Jason said is Cohen and Wolf can do the opinion on constitutional law. Just ask them to do it. I haven't done that. So the other side of it is that in the charter, and I tried to get something out of the guys when they were here from Ethics Commission, and I understand they didn't want to go there, but are we required, what are we going to be in violation of if we do not follow through with the charter?
Yeah, and I think, some made a point that, if you do this, you could be sued. I would argue, equally on the other side, is someone says, this is what the charter says, and you're not doing this, we're gonna turn around and sue you. So I personally would feel better if Cohen and Wolf gave a opinion on the constitutionality of it.
That's the bigger risk.
Yes.
That's the bigger risk.
Right.
And we don't want to be city of Boston.
Jason feels that relative to the Boston case, the last paragraph in the ordinance is what creates government speech versus public forum. And you're going to argue that back.
Yeah. I
all
mean,
night long.
think about what we did. In December, we said to ourselves, let's take everything off the table and just keep it simple. And the implication of that is we said, this is government flagpole. You can't use it public. Off limits. And now we're in a position where he's kind of saying that the attorney's kind of saying, okay, guess what? This is government, not public, so you're not going to be in violation of the First Amendment because it's not a public forum.
Well, that's what Boston did.
But we're reaching an entirely different conclusion in terms of what we're doing using the same excuse.
Mm-hmm.
And it's contradictory to me. And I think any lawyer could easily demonstrate that.
It could be, and there are multiple communities in the state of Connecticut, like, for example, New Milford, that applies everything. Call the mayor's office and boom, it's up. And to other communities that have a policy like we do, that really limits it. And where does a lawsuit happen? I don't know.
Well,
Like I've said, I always say, we always get sued. for whatever reason.
Yeah, but there's
we're in a
no reason to
litigious
put ourselves
society.
in the position to be sued.
Yeah,
Let's not walk into
But
it.
that's why, and believe me, whatever you wanna do, but according to Jason, that's why they added that last paragraph about government speech. But I agree, I think we need to get a constitutional law opinion. Are we in violation?
What last paragraph about government speech? On the
In
petition?
his letter,
Yeah.
In adopting this ordinance, the Ridgefield Town Meeting declares the flagpoles owned or maintained by the town of Ridgefield are not intended to serve as a forum for free expression by the public, but rather as a non-public forum for the display of the flags authorized herein as government speech. And that was the city of Boston determination after the lawsuit. They adopted an ordinance, I have a lot of paperwork here. I think it's in here.
Well, and then,
This is what I cut and pasted, but I don't want to give you that. I just went to the city of Boston and made a copy of the ordinance that they adopted in 22, I think it was. And, sorry, do you want one, Sean?
No, I think I've gotten enough of the legal stuff.
Okay.
I mean, my feeling is, we could find lawyers pushing for, every different perspective. We trust the town lawyer to go through and do an evaluation. So I would defer to, if they say, both on the, the charter issue and the constitutional issue, if they say we're clear, then I'm fine. If they say we're not clear,
Right.
then I'm fine to defer, to their.
And they have no problem doing that,
okay,
that review.
fine,
giving
let's
a
have
formal
him, let's have him
opinion.
do that. I'm not gonna predetermine what my opinion is gonna be based on what he says. I'm just not, but, that's a good next step.
The only question I then have is the requirement about the number of days
45 days.
from, so when do we receive it?
Yeah, but
October 9th.
the charter does say if they are proper subjects for action at a town meeting determined by the attorney for the town.
And he
it
has done that.
No, we're asking him for constitutional,
No, that question is specific to the petition.
Oh, okay,
Is that a proper topic for the town?
so if you're worried about.
And that answer will be the same tomorrow as it is today.
If you're worried about kind of the prospect of being sued for not kind of complying with the 45-day, I would suggest to the board that if we were more concerned about that and we just kind of rushed through and then we were sued, the entity that's kind of proposing this is not going to look very good because they're going to be in the public's eye for creating a circumstance where we've been sued. It strikes me that it might just be smart on their part to just let this get resolved, legally in terms of the constitutional issue. And I don't see them, I just don't see them getting necessarily upset by us getting our ducks in a row.
can I just say,
Right.
can I just ask a question? I understand that anyone there's a benchmark people have to meet to bring a petition before the Board of Select people to bring a form a town meeting. But if what they're asking you to do at that is going to put the town in jeopardy of a lawsuit or is an illegal action or something like that, isn't that why the charter is giving us the leeway of allowing the town attorney to opine on it? Not the wording of the petition itself, but whether the action that could result
That's a
from
good
the
point.
town meeting
That's a good point.
could be,
Yeah,
put
but
the
no
town in
matter what
jeopardy.
action we take at a town meeting, we're subject to a lawsuit. Anyone can sue us for anything.
No, but I'm saying that if the board made a decision, and,
I asked him exactly what you were saying now.
okay,
And his response was, our review of the petition will be the same tomorrow as it is today, that it is a proper topic for a town meeting.
So can I ask that?
okay, go ahead.
So we have the 45 days to set a date, not to have, is that correct? Not to
Right.
have the town meeting, but to set a date for the town meeting. So can we tonight set a date that's far enough out that allows for that constitutional review?
Do you have the charter there? And that's an area that, verified town clerk.
I would rather not set a date because I'd rather have the ruling of the attorney on the constitutional law of this actual ask from from a special interest group to have a flag flown on town property. I'm not in favor of setting a town meeting tonight for it. I'm just not. I'd rather get the legal opinion of what we're opening the town up to.
The vote on the subject of the petition shall occur within 45 days
Well,
of
the
receipt.
vote on the subject of
So
petition.
it's
So
supposed
like
to
the town
take
vote,
place
right?
within 45 days.
Yeah, so
of
we're gonna
vote.
blow past that. Right, if we
We
don't.
could.
If we don't set a date tonight, we will not be in compliance with that.
You know-
But I think Chris, just to finish the thought, I think you make a fair point, like, I don't think if we're just past that, if we're pursuing all the proper methods, again, I don't speak for this group, yes, I did sign the petition, I'm not part of this group, but I would be surprised if they're gonna turn around and say, it's the 46th day, I'm gonna turn around and sue you. You know,
They don't want us to get sued. I don't think they want us to get sued.
Who's that?
Right. They're not
The
gonna want us
petitioners.
to
No,
get
no,
sued, so they should,
no.
they're not
They
gonna,
don't want a lawsuit,
Yeah.
no.
because they might get named in it. I mean, you know, they might, you never know.
Can I just point out one thing? Your 45 days, you are supposed to do it within that 45 days. However, the petition is asking you to act on something that won't occur until June of next year. So the urgency is kind of a self-imposed urgency. So I think if you spoke to.
I wouldn't argue that, I'm just looking at the charter.
Right.
Yeah.
No, the charter, you're right about the charter.
Yeah.
Seems like a conversation with Ms. Trachtenberg to say, look, you're really not gonna want this flag until
Well,
June of next year, can you?
I think what I would like to do is ask for a consideration to withdraw. We were talking before the meeting
Right.
a little bit about that, like with the leaf blower petition that we received.
Right.
We went back and he said, okay, I'll withdraw it as long as we form a committee. Would this group possibly entertain a withdrawal so that we can get the opinion and then address it at that time? That's
Okay.
one option.
Would that then require them to go out and get new signatures? If they withdraw, because
well,
to me, if they withdraw,
Let's be clear. If there's the prospect of a lawsuit and the public knows about that, they might not get the signatures. I mean, there's an issue here. There's a trade-off. I mean, we have to be, this is a public meeting, the public's gonna know now. I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen. I have no clue what's gonna happen. I just don't want the town to get sued. And, but neither does Pride. So, I would say withdraw, let's go slow here, let's just.
I
figure
don't
it-
think we're gonna have a vote that would pass tonight for a town meeting. I think it would be probably at best a 2-2,
Right.
what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
Okay?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, and we know we're not gonna be successful, or a vote would fail, or whatever, what do we do tonight to continue to move this along? And what I'm saying is, number one, get an opinion on the constitutional law.
yeah, I think we're all in agreement on
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Number two, ask for a potential withdrawal to extend that time frame and resubmit.
And not have the other issue kind of influence our thinking.
Right, so that
Okay.
our backs aren't against the wall.
I agree with that too,
Okay,
if,
that's number two.
that's fine with me.
yeah.
The idea of a withdrawal, I think with the other one, we didn't ask for a withdrawal. I think that, that group proactively said,
They
Right,
called
they
and
do that.
said, look, what we'll do, because we were pointing out so many
yeah,
deficiencies.
and they
in it,
heard comment, yeah,
that
absolutely.
They said, look, we'll go ahead and withdraw it, but it was like a negotiation.
But it was, yeah,
it
because
shouldn't
there's a
have been
process
involved.
here, yeah.
It was.
Again, I don't speak for this group, I would find it hard to believe this group would say, yeah, we'll voluntarily, withdraw this and.
Yeah, they did a
whatever.
lot of work.
They did a lot of work for it, so,
Well,
but I think, I agree, I almost feel like, for the record, I would like to put a motion on to have the town meeting, but I think you're right, there's no reason to do something that, we know is not gonna pass.
Right.
So let's, do the constitutional review, let's, I don't know, if you wanna just reach out to that group, to, Alicia who sponsored that, and just say, here's our process, if you wanna ask them to withdraw, to me, that's a little bit tough, but to say, have patience, right, as we, pursue
Well,
this.
I'm
Well, they
just
can
thinking
also
of the
think about
charter.
the position they're putting the town in.
With the charter.
Yeah.
well, with the whole, with the
Yeah.
ask.
With the lawsuit.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because it truly, you know, I mean, as far as our decision-making, we have to be blind as far as the group that's asking. So it's
Yeah, it could be
it
anyone.
could be anybody.
Yep.
And in that regard, we have to, that's the mindset that I'm looking at it from. It's
Good
no,
point.
you know, it's not it's not the group.
It's a petition
It's a
we
petition
received.
that we received first from a special interest group that's putting the policy that we put in place, that we really vetted for quite a lengthy discussion in a very bad spot, in my opinion.
Rudy, do you think Pullman and, is it Pullman and Conley? Who's
No,
Jason?
Cohen and Wolf.
Cohen and Wolf. Do you think that that we could ask Jason to speak to Daniel Waking, or is that, I don't want to
Ask him to what, speak?
to speak to this Waking guy.
Oh.
I just
yeah.
like them.
Yeah, he called me and he said, you know, our agreement, verbal, is that people can't just call me and start asking for opinions because they would get inundated, okay?
Okay.
So our agreement is that they don't do any communication until we say.
Oh, okay. I
Okay,
just
go
don't.
for it.
I don't want
I
to
don't
step
have
on
a
their
problem.
toes as to how they do this. They're obviously a good firm. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just saying it might be useful for Jason and Daniel to talk.
But then you could argue the other side too. It's like, well, that group might want to have their lawyers or their legal
Yeah,
counsel.
yeah. I mean, I don't know.
think we-
It's not my realm.
We
I mean,
pay
I'm not.
for.
yeah.
My feeling is we pay for
He-
legal advice.
he's gonna
I'm
do what
biased
he's gonna
legal
do.
advice.
Jason said, if you want me to talk to him, I'll call him.
Well, I mean, the guy writes pretty compellingly. It just might be useful to hear his argument when
Right.
he's done and whatever.
Right.
You know, Jason's been busy, by the way. He got elected yesterday.
Yeah, he did. But
What did he get elected to?
State rep for,
Southbury, I forget the
yeah,
district.
state rep. Yeah.
Jason has done, and the firm has done, some research on this.
Okay.
Relative to the Boston case.
Okay.
It's not as if they haven't looked at this.
Okay. So we don't, okay.
But he did say they have not gone into the constitutional law part of it. If you want us to, we will do that.
Okay.
But he couldn't have it for tonight.
Yep,
Okay,
that's fair.
that's fine, because he's been, that's fine.
No, it's just that they just didn't have
We
enough
di-
time,
yeah,
because a lot
right.
of the associates would go to
Okay.
work on it.
Okay. Thank
All
you.
right. Okay.
All right, so there's no vote tonight.
Thank you.
This is Kirk Carr, on the record. Thank you for watching.